Thermostat, a unique podcast taking a look behind the curtain of a contemporary culture scene with the artists, icons, and people working in the creative industry. What does their artistic process looks like and in terms of the current situation? All that and more in a moment.
Hello, guys, and welcome to our brand new podcast channel, TERMOSTAT Q. Today's episode is also going to be our first one in English, and our first guest will be one of the greatest producer, instrumentalist, and an art soul, Dan Haynes. Dan is producer for rapper Witt Lowry. Together, they released 3 amazing albums that we are going to discuss today as well. And they worked with names like Ava Max, Deon Reverie, Max, Trips Mitchell, and many, many others. Their music is full of emotions and real stories, and hopefully we get to learn about some of them today. Because we have a lot of questions prepared for Dan, so we shall start. And my first question I'm going to ask is, how did you start with your music career?
When I was a kid, I learned how to play music. My dad taught me how to play music, but as a career, I didn't start until when I was in college, and that was mostly with Mark or Witt Lowry. I'll be probably switching names in there, same person. But yeah, that's how I started my music career as a music producer at probably 22, and it's been going great ever since, I guess.
So, what was the first instrument you learned to play?
My dad taught me how to play the guitar probably when I was 12-ish. I remember he always played around the house, and he was a musician as well for the majority of his life. He just retired. But he would always play piano, and he'd always play guitar, and I saw him play guitar one day, and I was like, Dad, I want to learn how to play guitar, so can you teach me? And he was like, sure. So he taught me a few chords, and then that was it. Took it from there.
Nice. How you were practicing? I mean, how it all starts? Like you were just playing the chords, or?
Yep. I learned "Brown Eyed Girl." That was my first song that I learned, and it's like 3 chords, and it's super super easy. I think there's a 4th chord like randomly in the chorus, but then I just played that over and over until I got those 4 chords down, and then moved on to the next and kind of learned that way, just by repetition.
Nice. You also produced some of your own music, right? I mean, some songs when you were younger. Can you tell something about that?
Yeah, those were terrible.
I don't think so.
That was kind of me getting into, that was my first kind of intro to recording and intro to arrangement and just getting ideas out on paper or computer, whatever. And it definitely helped me down the road once I actually decided to, dive into this head first and fully. It gave me a lot of, extra insight, even if it was very basic. I kind of it wasn't like I was starting from scratch. I knew how to record, and I knew how to, well, not well, but I could set up a DAW and kind of get going and set up, and it definitely helped my later career.
It's a nice guitar there. I was listening like a few times, and it was very nice. I mean, it was your beginning, but still, it's like the layers and stuff.
Yeah,
It's great.
It's yeah, okay, I'll take that. Thank you.
Okay, I know you were in the army. Has this experience influenced your music production in some way? And if so, how?
Yeah, I was in the Air Force for 10 years, and it definitely influenced in many ways. I was able to, in an actual literal sense, I was able to support myself while being a musician, being in the military as well. And my leadership was able to see that, what I was doing, and they were very lenient and very supportive of my music career, which was great. And I don't think I would be here without that support from them. And it also, my job involves troubleshooting and involves problem solving, like on the spot. And it was, very intense and that was like the big chunk of my job. And I think that I kind of take that in the music sense. And, I'm presented with a problem. I have this noise and I need to convey emotion with it. So it's about figuring out and problem solving and troubleshooting that sound and molding it into what I want, I guess, in a way.
Yeah, sure. What position or what you were doing there in the army?
I was flying. Yeah, I was flying and loading planes and throwing stuff and people out of planes with parachutes.
Okay.
But yeah, I flew in back of cargo planes.
Okay, nice. That's cool. Was working in the music industry what you always dreamed of doing in your life?
No, that wasn't until right around college. I originally was planning on just staying in the military for the rest of my life, doing 20 years and retiring and then seeing what was going on from there. I kind of went to college only because the military paid for it and the government paid for it. And that's kind of where I was introduced to music and where I became a DJ. And that's how kind of Mark and I, Witt Lowry, got together because I was a DJ in college and we went to high school together. And he was like, oh, all right, well, I need some people to DJ my live shows. So, and he saw me on Facebook doing some DJing in college. So that's kind of how that ended up rolling in together. But I never saw myself being a musician full time until it was kind of staring me in the face.
Okay, and what you were playing there, like a DJ, I mean, in the band and the college?
What kind of music?
Yeah.
It was all like party stuff. It was like old 90s hip hop and modern dubstep at that time. Well, dubstep was super popular at that time.
Okay.
Yeah, it was an eclectic collection of music for sure. But I definitely put a lot of time into it. I made sets for parties and definitely more than other college 20-something-year-old college kids would put their time into, but I probably put more time into that than I did the schooling. But I think it all worked out in the end.
Yeah, actually. And do you think now for sometimes to try it again or to do a DJ again like this?
No, probably not. It's a much different way of performing music. And it's not as fluid for me. It's not as fun, but it was back then because it was something that was new and exciting. And, I would go online and just download as much music as I could. Like I would download gigs and gigs and gigs of music onto my laptop every week. I would make sure I had all the latest music and everything that came out. And that just became like super tiring. And I probably could go back into it. And I still kind of technically do when we perform live, but nothing like I was, for sure. It was just a lot of work.
Yeah, I agree. I'm doing it, but not like everything, but mostly into techno and house music, so the underground stuff. How did you get your first serious gig and how was it for you?
I personally, I had a band in high school. I think they were called Into Your Arms, which is pretty funny. But we got an opening slot or an opening gig at a music hall, Webster Hall in Hartford. Everyone played this venue called the Webster Underground, and it was attached to a bigger venue, but it was like a 50-person room. And I was in high school, and I had this band, and there was another band called 9 Days. They have the song "This Is the Story of a Girl." I don't know if you've heard that song before. It was a fairly popular one. It was a fairly popular one in the 90s, but this was now the 2000s, and they were much less popular. Unfortunately, it was kind of like a one-hit wonder for them. And I brought like more people to my show than they brought to their show, and then like once they started, we moved over and became their fans. But that was like my first real actual show where there was like a stage and people were like helping you set up, and you sold tickets and gave tickets away to people and all that kind of stuff. And then probably a whole bunch of years later, I think probably around 2012 or 2013, Mark and I started getting our first shows, and they were just in bars. There was like the people that were at the bar, and then our two friends that came. It was like 6 people, but it was definitely a valuable experience. That's where you kind of work, you make mistakes, and you accidentally hit a loop button on the mixer, and the hook just loops over and over again, and Mark's kind of like, what's going on? And but that's where you make mistakes, and it's okay to make those kind of mistakes at that point. So but yeah
I agree. How did you feel about your first gig? I mean, also with the Mark, and also the first one when you like were on the stage.
I loved it. I was having so much fun, both of those scenarios. It was definitely a new experience at that time, and like I said, it's a learning experience, so which I always enjoy. And even when things go poorly, or there's not a lot of people there or whatever, you always take something away from it, and it's just it's an eye-opening experience. And especially looking back to then and to see now, it's a very, very cool and awesome memory.
Nice. That's pretty nice to like go back for a while. Where do you get the ideas for your new music?
So the way our process, I guess you could say, works is Mark will usually come up with a concept, and I will create the instrumentals of the concept. Sometimes it'll be the opposite. Sometimes he'll have a hook, or sometimes I'll just create something and then send it to him, and we'll kind of figure out the content of that song later. But fairly often, like a good example is Reaper off of our last album, Never's Road. Mark knew that he wanted to write a song from Cancer's perspective. We knew that we wanted a song that could capture that feeling. So there is probably like 8 or 9 completely different versions of that song over a few years. And we were finally able to get it locked down for that last album. But yeah, it was like, all right, we know that we have this concept, so how do we match the instrumental to whatever the concept is? And that's normally how we get started.
So Reaper is like the oldest song on the last album, right?
No, I wouldn't say oldest. There's a few songs that we were working on for a pretty long time on that album. Definitely over the course of years. Not working on it completely over those years, but starting it here and then taking a break and seeing what else we can come up with, and working on new, like, different music to kind of separate yourself, because your ears definitely get a little tired and you're like, I don't even know if this is good anymore. I've listened to this a million times. But the idea of Reaper has been since I Could Not Plan This, like just after. That was always a kind of concept that we wanted to tackle, and I think that he absolutely crushed it. So I'm glad that we were able to nail it then.
I mean, I loved every single song from this album, so yeah, sure. I agree with you. Actually, which music genre, musicians or artists inspire you the most?
I think there's a few. There's Hans Zimmer, I think, is a huge inspiration, coming from the movie and cinematic arena, and the way that he can create emotion, and just through a single piano key or a drone. It just creates he knows how to create a really cool atmosphere. But I think I take a lot from a lot of different artists and a lot of different genres, from rock to metal to hip hop, to movie soundtracks. So, but I would say definitely the first that comes to mind is usually Hans Zimmer, just because of his ability to create an atmosphere. And I think that's super cool. So
Yeah, he's great in his work. So I absolutely agree. It's not my best, but I love his production and stuff. Like the film music is, I can say, higher level of the music.
yeah, yes,
So it's a masterpiece mostly.
yes.
So I agree with you. Sure. What could we find in your playlist right now?
It's, again, probably a wide variety of music. I have a snowboarding playlist that I keep adding like new stuff to all the time. It's kind of like a rolling, just, hey, I like this song, I'm gonna throw it in here. There's Millennium, St. John, Tiny Moving Parts. There's a whole wide variety of artists in my playlist, but I kind of do that on purpose. I don't like listening to the same thing over and over again. So
yeah, I have the same. Sometimes I am like, oh my gosh, you have to stop and you have to search for something new. Because it's going like over and over again, like it's one playlist, and I'm not adding nothing, but I loved it. So I'm just listening in like 2 months. But after that, you're like, it's kind of boring. So
yeah,
after that, I need to change. But yeah, I found some new music also right now. So I have the same probably. Actually, I have question what I was asking at the beginning here. It's very close to that you are producing for Witt Lowry, and if you could tell us about how you met and started to collaborate that you were answering at the beginning. So how it goes now. I mean, between you and Mark, how is the, I don't know how to say, wait. I have to think about, because you were answering for it. So maybe I can leave this. So, okay. I mean, it's the conversation is going. So sometimes you have some question and it's like under the others. So, but you are talking, Sue. So
yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah, so you want me to say about how we met or how we started?
Maybe you can say how you started, like the idea of because you said that you are starting just with the DJing. So he probably, because I know he released at the first was a mixtape, right?
Yep. Yeah,
The
actually
Headphones
that
Hero?
was Headphone Hero, and that was the first. So we went to high school together, and he was in a few of my classes. Like we knew each other. We weren't strangers, but we also weren't like best of friends yet. And he released Headphone Hero, and it was such a funny story. And I hope like this is the story that I've always told, and I hope that I'm remembering it correctly. But it was just so, I guess, serendipitous, if that's the word. But I downloaded Headphone Hero onto my iPod at the time and hopped in the shower, and I was listening to it, and I was like, all right, yeah, like this is pretty good for, someone from high school. Because you kind of expect a certain level, I think, of quality, and coming out of a bedroom rapper from high school, of a high school friend, and it was like really good, and I was like, wow, like this is actually pretty impressive. And I was gonna like message him and be like, hey man, like I really enjoyed your mixtape, Headphone Hero, and I hop on Facebook and I see a message from him. And it's like, hey, I have some live shows and I need you to DJ them. Or I saw you were a DJ and I was hoping that you could DJ them. I was like, oh, wow. I was just like literally just about to message you, and I was just listening to Headphone Hero, and it's super awesome. And that's just kind of how that ended up going at the start. And now we've evolved and kind of, I started producing, I think probably about 6 months or a year maybe after we started. Because I was just literally being a live DJ. I was not into production at all until the song Wake Up, which is super old and super cringy for me to listen to because it just sounds crazy. But people seem to like it, and that was really what gave us our first start back in the blog days of 2013. So
nice.
Yeah, that I think we owe a lot to that song in that kind of time. So
Yeah. And after that came Kindest Regards, right? But it was another album, right?
yeah, Kindest Regards came through, and that was when I actually started producing. And I think that's even when Mark and I talk about it a lot, when Mark found his sound with Kindest Regards, because in that time the popular rap genre was that college hip hop rap, or college rap, not college hip hop rap. And it was kind of like silly, and there was a lot of punchlines and wittiness, which was what Mark's original first name was, Witty. And that was the popular kind of genre of rap at the time. And that's kind of the direction that we were heading, up until Kindest Regards, which, you know, was over pianos and was kind of like a big ballad anthem hip hop track where Mark was just telling his story. And that kind of shifted the direction of everything pretty much all at once. We were like, all right, let's kind of see what's over in this genre land of kind of big anthem hip hop.
Yeah, thinking back and thinking about, it's like that. Kindest Regards is kind of totally different song from that album. I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
But I was never thinking about like that, because I like everything from you and Mark. So, but yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, and it's funny because we were somewhere and this girl came up to, we were showing people this song, and this girl came up to him, and there was no it wasn't like a recorded song, it was just the instrumental and him. And this girl came up to him and she was like, you can't rap over this. And he was like, I will rap over this. And that is still probably the most I mean, besides Into Your Arms right now, that's probably the most successful song that we've ever written. You know, it's still getting an incredible amount of plays all these years later, 7 years later. So you know, it's a cool testament. And you know, we talk about it all the time, where you know, it's this random girl is like, you can't rap over this, you know, like this isn't rap music. And I was like, well, I will. And he did. And you know, it just kind of goes to show you, it's kind of funny how that song kind of not only was successful on its own, but also pushed us in a different direction creatively from the future on.
Yeah. I mean, I found your music, I mean, when you released the Dreaming with Our Eyes Open.
Mm-hmm.
And my first song I heard from you and Mark was My Mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
And it was kind of, I was like, wow, this is cool. It's mostly like the hip hop, you know, but after that I started to searching for your music and stuff, and I was like, wow, this is like, and I heard the Kindest Regards and like the title, mm-hmm. Dreaming with Our Eyes Open, yep. Which is like piano song, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. And I started to following you and everything. It was so emotional, and I was in the time which I needed that time, music like that. So yeah, I mean, definitely it's like yours. I mean, your style, which is cool when you find the real sound of you.
Yeah, and it took I think a lot of time, and we were still definitely with Dreaming, we were still figuring out kind of what we were doing. That was the first album that I mostly produced. Ty Nitty, our buddy Ty Nitty, produced Tried to Be Nice, and then I had everything else. And we were still trying to figure out a direction, and we knew that we could, with the success of Kindest Regards, we knew that we could kind of push boundaries in a different direction, in a different way. And we were just kind of throwing stuff at the wall and hoping that it stuck. And it was funny because we never expected like My Mistake or Wonder If You Wonder to be the lead songs off of that project. And it was just really cool to see that, like, oh wow, people really enjoy this style, and they're two very different songs, My Mistake and Wonder If You Wonder. But it, again, similar to Kindest Regards, it paved a way to create the next album and the album after that and the album after that. It was kind of like opening doors and basically showing us that we could be creative and people would still accept it, I guess. If that makes sense.
For sure. For sure. I mean, the stories and stuff, I mean, also the lyrics, and music. Like, I think it's great that you are working together. I mean, when speaking of dreaming with our eyes, wait, what? Dreaming with, what dreaming with our eyes open,
We
right?
can call it dreaming too. We call it dreaming for short.
Okay, dreaming. So speaking of this album, I started to search for everything you released. I mean, videos, from the tour, which actually did Mike Squires, and I saw it like million times. I mean, it was amazing to see how you guys are going through US, and traveling, and you have like 30 or 40 people there on the gigs, which is crazy, and they were jumping like there are 100 people. I mean, I was absolutely, it was absolutely amazing for me, and I was like, I want to go there. I need to go to the US because I need to be there. And I was like, and that time I started to think about that it will be nice to see you in Europe, and you came in 2 years after that. So it was for me like amazing how was the way that you did, like the big steps you did. So it was great. And actually, speaking about this tour, you did your first tour in US. How did you feel about it, and how do you look at it over time?
The first tour that we ever did was a 7-show East Coast US tour for Dreaming with Our Eyes Open. And they were small little venues. There was, I don't even think there was maybe 100 people at the biggest show. I honestly, I don't even remember crowds. I know like certain ones were like kind of small, and we're like, all right, well, this will be fun. Like we'll roll with it. And then there was some that were like, I remember Providence, Rhode Island, we had a show, and it was like you said, there was like 40 people there, but it felt huge, and Mark was climbing on pipes in the venue and just being an absolute animal. And it was like I said, with the first shows that we ever did, that was the first time we were ever touring, which is a completely different style of performing than just a bar show or a one-off or whatever. We learned a lot, and both Mark and I learned a whole lot, just about having a tour manager and having merch and not going 110% every night, because you can't. You want to, but by the third show or the second show, you're going to be toasted. You're not going to be able to give your all the next night, and give the same show. So it's all about being consistent and not going so hard that the rest of the tour suffers. Because while you want to give an awesome show to the people there, you also have to think about the hundreds or thousands or whatever of people the next nights. So that was definitely a fun memory. I remember, we had Mark's mom's car, her SUV, and it was missing a headlight, and we just drove that around New England and just filled with boxes of merch. And it was a real interesting setup and a real interesting kind of tour, because it was short, but it was again a new experience, and a really fun time.
Nice. I mean, I also saw like the people, they were on the first gig that they went to another and another. Like sometimes they were talking that like they were from Philadelphia or somewhere. I can't remember, but they were traveling like with you constantly to another
Yeah,
gig.
that's there's a few people, especially a few fans even now that'll follow us just around the country, which is super cool. You'll talk to them one night and be like, hey, we're gonna drive over to this spot, we're gonna see if we can make it. And it's really, I'm not sure, heartwarming, I guess, or it's nice that people will go to those lengths to support us, and it doesn't go unrecognized, even though it's hard to take time and carve time out for those people, that come so far to see you night after night, and take time out of their day and their lives to support you. But we always try to at least say hi, and I guess in prior to 2020 give them a hug. But yeah, it's pretty cool, especially even the Dreaming with Our Eyes Open tour. It was a little bit of a smaller regional tour, so it was a little bit easier for people to move around. But yeah, even back then, we had people following us, so it was definitely super cool.
I was really thinking to move to the US just because of this for a while to see you and everything. Yeah, I was like absolutely amazed by this everything because it like hit me, that album and everything in it. So yeah, sure. I will be the same, the traveling from one gig to another.
Yes,
So, yeah.
I'm sure once the next tour happens, well, I'm sure that if and when the next tour happens, people will be traveling again by that time. So we'll see you in the US.
Hope so. I really hope for that.
Yeah.
Your another album was I Could Not Plan This, and it was quite successful, and you did the European tour as well, as we were talking. And how did you come up with an idea to tour the Europe?
I don't think it was so much our idea. We had a booking agency that was booking our tours, and they have the metrics and they have the data to say, hey, if you have X amount of people listening on Spotify or YouTube or wherever here, or buying your music here, let's try these markets out and see if they work. And that first I Could Not Plan This tour in Europe, I remember we found out that we were going to Europe on our US tour for I Could Not Plan This. We were like, wow, we're going to Europe? All right, awesome. Like, it was kind of a little bit of a surprise. Yeah, I mean, it was just I guess we weren't planning it, but we couldn't plan it. But we kind of just went out into Europe like a shotgun and went to a lot of different places to start, because that's how you kind of know on the next tour where to go, or sometimes where not to go if certain shows weren't hitting like the rest. And I think we've used a lot of that in future tours as well.
What was your favorite city during the tour, like during
in Europe?
Yeah.
London and Amsterdam will always be memorable, just because they are the bigger shows on the tour. I think Amsterdam is still the biggest show that we've ever done, and London is, I think, memorable because they're usually pretty wild, and every time that I stage dive, they drop me. So, and that's the only spot that has ever done that multiple times. So, but it's all I'll keep jumping, and hopefully they'll continue to catch me, I guess. But I think there's also a big difference between certain show cities and the actual show itself. Like we went to Copenhagen on our last tour, and it was just such a beautiful city, and everyone was so nice, and the city was really clean. And while I don't necessarily can't pick out the show, the city itself was extremely memorable, and it was just a very warm and nice time, I guess, in a very, very cool memory.
Nice. I mean, yeah, sure. It's like a complex. I mean, I was asking just like in general, what city you like not only just because of you did a concert there. So yeah, sure.
Yeah, Copenhagen is always super cool. A lot of fun memories in Vienna.
Really?
Where we've played a few times. Yeah. I mean, that the venue that we play there is always a standout because of the way that their lights are set up and the stuff that they have in their green room. Like they have a very giant sign in the green room that just says "vicious," and it's big and red. Yeah, and then the venue itself has the big lights on the ceiling that are super cool and super unique. But it's
good atmosphere there. Sorry.
Yeah, it's they're always memorable, and I think that's kind of the biggest thing in remembering these places and having these great memories is having those little things that are like, oh yeah, I remember, this thing about this city because it's extra unique, I guess. So all the music venues get some memorable lights or a memorable thing in your green room. But
yeah, sure. I mean, first time I was in Vienna, the first concert, I could not plan this tour, so I was kind of lost because it's like, under the club is a kind of like cycleway or something, and I was like standing up on there and I was trying to find it, and I just met two guys from Berlin. They traveled to Vienna just because of Witt's concert, and I was like, hey, do you know where's Grelle Forelle? And they were like, oh really, you're going to that gig? And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to that concert.
Yeah, it's kind of like underground.
Yeah. And
it's not very easy to find.
Yeah, and actually there's a small fish there next to the door. So I was finding like the big one, like Grelle Forelle, and I was trying to find that. And I thought that it's like that. And it was just like a small fish next to the door. And I was like, this is it? Really? Yeah.
Yeah.
And because I was there like around 3 p.m., I think. Yeah, because I came earlier just because of the trains and, like traffic and stuff. So after that, we found it. We took a break, like we were going for food or something. And after that, I came there and I was like really surprised that inside is really nice. I mean, I like the place. So it's super cool there. But yeah, it was kind of funny to find it.
Yeah, the people there are pretty nice. And yeah, it's definitely I wouldn't say a little hole in the wall, but you have to kind of go through a hole in the wall, I guess, to get in there. I think it's a little bit more obvious from the back on the riverside because it's just a whole big area. But from the other side, yeah, I could definitely see it being a little confusing.
Yeah, but we found it, so it was good. What does actually your concert setup include, if you can say?
Yeah, so I guess presently on our last tour, you just use two computers, both running Ableton as our kind of show live DAW. One's just a primary and one's a backup. So hopefully you don't ever use the second computer because that means things are going interestingly. But yeah, I have a primary, and then connected to that is a little beat pad that I launch songs from. I used to do the whole like DJ platter and stuff, and more I was coming out to sing extra lyrics or play an instrument. I have a guitar that I play now, and we used to do a drum machine occasionally for some of our festival shows. Mark would I'd play guitar and Mark would bang on this drum machine, which is fun. But yeah, it's pretty simple, and I think it's easy for us to load in and load out, and only have, I think we have 8 channels total, maybe, or 12 including mics. So venues are like, that's it, that's all you got. They're usually used to full bands and having 1 million channels and 1 million inputs and outputs, and we're just computer and guitar and 2 mics, and that's it. And some we just added in-ears on our last tour, which I didn't realize was a whole other separate channel system and a whole other thing to figure out. But I'm glad that we had it to use and utilize, because it's definitely very helpful.
I've never been on tour like you have, so I have no idea how it looked like. Even I'm studying music and sound design, but we never did like tour or something, concerts, like only the small venues, and I'm DJing, so I have like 2 cables, so which is crazy.
Right. Yeah, and which is good. I mean, less is if less is better. I would say less with redundancies is better, because I mean, my dad always drilled this into my head when I was a kid, when he was DJing and he was in a band and being a musician. He's like, you want to have 2 of everything, of at least the important items, because something will go wrong eventually. And he was not wrong in saying that. Where audio cables are bad, or just random things go wrong, that are mid show, so you kind of have to figure it out on the fly. Sometimes it's just like, all right, time to go to the backup, or time to figure something else out, which we've had to do a few times in our careers. But yeah, definitely simple is better. So having 2 cables, it's not so bad.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine, because you don't need like a lot of stuff to pack. Yeah.
Yep. Everything just in a backpack. Perfect.
Yeah. I mean, my console is a little bit bigger, but I'm starting to learning players, so hopefully just the little USB twice, maybe.
Yeah.
And it's enough.
Yep. Yeah. Show up with the show in your pocket.
Yeah. And how does the rider for the whole band look like? I mean, what includes the rider? Because I heard that sometimes people have like crazy things on the rider. I don't know.
We are not one of those. We don't have like only green M&Ms. No, we're pretty simple. We get a lot of batteries, honestly, but like all the other stuff is pretty normal. I guess not normal, but pretty vanilla. We're get some granola bars and cheese platter, a fruit platter, or vegetable platter, or something like that. I think we had gum for a little bit. What else? We'll get like a loaf of bread and rotisserie chicken. And we'll like throw a bunch of stuff together for that. You get creative with your meal choices for sure. But yeah, we're pretty simple. We don't ask for a lot. We ask for an incredible amount of water, because not only are you usually taking the water for the show, but you're also taking it with you traveling for the crew and for yourself, because obviously you want to stay hydrated and you don't want to get sick. So having bottled water is definitely probably the biggest item that we have. The more cases of water, the better. We'll find room for it.
You're singing on like for Marigold, so sure, I agree. But sometimes they're putting on the rider like the story of their I don't know what, like, or like crazy things. That's why I was asking.
Yeah, but nothing too crazy. Mark will get black t-shirts every once in a while, or some socks, but that's about it. That's only to stay fresh. So, or like, I want to go out and meet people, but this shirt that I'm wearing is completely soaked through, so he'll throw on a fresh shirt and some socks to go out and meet people. But venues also normally don't get everything on your rider. They'll get maybe half. There's only been a very small handful of times where venues have gone and gotten most of the things that they could off the rider, and I think mostly all of them were in Europe. So the U.S. does not like to to get all the things on your rider, which is okay. We don't really we don't really care too much if we have a rotisserie chicken on the rider, unless we're super super hungry. I normally don't eat before shows, so I'll wait until after. So it's no biggie for me. And I like to go get food in cities, so rider food is, yeah, I can get that anywhere.
Okay. Okay. The last album you produced was Nevis Road. How did you come up with the idea for the album, and was the concept created before the music production?
It was a little bit of both. I think we had a few songs already concepted. We knew that we were shooting for an album and a full project, but it wasn't fully realized yet. And usually Mark will kind of call me and he'll be like, "Hey, like, what do you think about this idea, or what do you think about this kind of concept for an idea for a whole album?" And yeah, I think he called, and we're both from the same town in Connecticut, and it has a park called Nevers Road Park. And in the early days, in the Kindness Regards days, we went there a lot, and Mark went there a lot to write. He would just throw on his headphones and walk around Nevers Road, just do laps. It had like a really cool trail kind of system through these woods and stuff. So I think it was, for him, it was kind of like going back to the roots and where you're from. And I think we kind of started running with the concept more and more as the album progressed in writing. The song Welcome, which is the intro track, I went to Nevers Road and I just sat there with an area mic. So like all the sounds that you hear on Nevers Road, on both the title track and the intro, are all from Nevers Road Park. I recorded the ukulele there, and I recorded just like kind of like the area mic and the birds, and there you can hear people playing volleyball. There's people playing volleyball by where I was recording, and you can hear them on both of those tracks. But yeah, and so it's kind of like a home project for us, kind of realizing seeing where you came from and how important that is.
I mean, when you release it, I was in Macedonia at the time. So I was just sitting in a bus and you released it, and I just downloaded it on my phone, and I played during the way to the work. So, and I was working on a computer a whole day, and I was listening on repeat the whole day that album. And I was kind of like, it also hit me so much. The intro is really nice. Actually, how do you play the ukulele there?
I don't know. I don't play the ukulele. I think I've told this story at least once before, but that was the first thing that I ever played on the ukulele. When Mark and I played Lollapalooza in 2019, 21 Pilots played as well. And they're up there jamming, they have a whole bunch of different instruments, and it's just these two dudes, and one of them was just jamming on a ukulele, and Mark's like, "Dude, don't you have a ukulele?" And I was like, "Yeah." And months go by, and we're writing this album, and we're trying to figure out an intro track, and I'm like, "Oh, well, I have this ukulele here, so let me tune it up." And I just recorded just on my phone basically what you hear, what ended up becoming the intro to the album. And it's super simple. It's just like the same thing repeated over and over again, because that's all I could play. I couldn't really play anything else. But yeah, I mean, I guess that kind of goes to show you don't necessarily need to understand or know how to play an instrument in order to create music with it. You just kind of hit stuff and see what happens.
Sure. That's interesting that you can just, like, you don't know how to play, or you play the first time, but it's like a good idea, so you record it, and after that you play on the computer in Ableton, or in a computer. So great. I mean, I really love the intro, and it's connected with the outro, like the Nevs Road.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
It is. Yeah. Yep. It's melodies, everything. So everything I try to to sandwich. It's kind of like bookends where, you know, you have the intro track and Never's Road. And I tried to kind of take themes out of both songs and kind of put them together. There's some whistles and stuff in Never's Road that have a similar melody to the one in Welcome. So, and it's kind of, there's no ukulele in Never's Road, but yeah, I definitely tried it. And I think that's a kind of what we've been trying to do is, you know, as to make it a cohesive album, to kind of start and ends kind of like a book.
Yeah, I mean, the story is pretty accurate for it, as I can say as a listener. So for me, it's like from the beginning to the end, I have like makes sense. You know, it's pretty nice. Yeah, actually, the intro reminds me, but this is actually just my opinion, kind of folk rhythm, Slovak folk rhythm. I mean, I can dance like the folk thing because, you know, it's going like it's kind of pumping.
Yeah.
So yeah, but it's pretty nice. I was trying in my room to kind of dance on it.
It's definitely when I remember when I was kind of writing that, I wasn't thinking in that kind of direction at all. And then the more and more, I guess, that people heard it, they're like, oh, it's like kind of like a country theme or like it folk or some. It was like everyone was throwing all these different things at me. And I was like, oh, I guess it kind of does, kind of framing my thought of the music that I wrote in a completely different way, which is cool. I mean, because I wouldn't think of it in that way. And then someone is like, oh, like this is kind of what I thought when I was listening to it. And I was like, oh, well, that's awesome. Because it kind of means your own thing to you, which I think is important in all of our music, what you can take out of it. And that's just a kind of a sillier example, but an example no less.
I don't think so. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's music or because it's mostly instrumental. I mean, it's a rap in there in Welcome, but the beginning of the song and the pumping, it's like instrumental. So, and you didn't whistle there, right?
No, I didn't. That is a VST. That's just I think some patch. But I knew I did want whistles. I couldn't get the sound that I wanted out of my own whistling, so I just kind of went with that, and I think it sounded a little bit cleaner and nicer, which is hard to do and kind of hard to figure out while you want to, I guess, have your hands in a song and you want to, you know, put yourself into a song. Sometimes choosing to go the easier route in a way sounds better, and you know, maybe I could have easily kind of gone in and whistled, and you know, it probably would have sounded fine, but I think the way that we did it, I think it sounded a lot cleaner, and as far as audio and ease of listening is concerned, I think it sounded pretty good in its final product.
Sure, it doesn't matter if it's VST or your whistle. I mean,
no, and I think that was always something that I struggled with as a young musician, is people don't care how you did something. Only you care how you did it personally. But as long as it sounds good and people can take something from it and you can convey an emotion with it, that's what matters. Not that like, oh, I wanted to whistle on this thing, or I wanted to play guitar, I wanted to do X, Y, and Z. But if you can, I don't think it really matters in the end, because no one's gonna care. No, people only care about what they hear. So as long as what you can convey is getting what you want to convey out, that's what matters, not how you convey it, I guess.
Yeah. Actually, we are with Christian, we are saying all the time, like, fake it till you make it. I mean, which is kind of description of this. I mean, it's not like you are faking it, but you are trying to find a better way of sound, or some kind of better sound. I can say more about it. So I absolutely agree. It's people care just after that. I mean, I'm really like it's interesting for me to ask someone if I really like it, what he used or she, or like what's it inside, like instruments and stuff. It's like really amazing to know, and it's like, oh wow, this is not a whistle.
Yeah.
This is like some some tool in.
And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And I think Welcome is a great example where the whistle is a VST, and while I couldn't get the sounds that I was looking for myself by recording it and being like a purist with the song, trying to whistle myself, but I wouldn't be able to get the ukulele and that sound through any other way, except for recording it myself. I think you hear a lot more of the intricacies of the instrument itself, which give it character that you wouldn't be able to play that as MIDI and create that same sound with a virtual instrument. It just wouldn't it wouldn't sound the same. It would sound kind of more blocky, I guess. So in some cases it works, and in some cases it doesn't, and you just have to use your ear and know when something will work well and when you're getting the sound that you want, and when to say, maybe there's another way we can convey this emotion.
The combination of the acoustic music and instruments and the electronic music is the best way. So, and Never's Road is a good example.
It is, yes.
So, yeah. Okay, so we can say that Never's Road is a conceptual album, right?
I would say concept light. Yeah. I wouldn't go as far as, like a true conceptual album where each song tells a very specific story in an order, or there's no skits or anything like that, or any extra things. I think a good concept album that comes to my mind is Because of the Internet by Childish Gambino, which is a fantastic album. I love that album, and I think he had some video that would eventually go along with it, and I don't know if he canceled it or something, like someone leaked it or something like that, and he was like, anyway. But I wouldn't say that Never's Road is that level of conceptual, where there's a book or a story or something attached to it, but there is an overarching overall concept, and like I said, it has the bookends, so you have the intro and the outro that kind of sandwich everything together, and a lot of themes throughout that are similar together throughout the album. So in that way, and I think we always try to, in all of our albums, do that and try to get not only over kind of the theme of the album kind of throughout, but also a variety of genres within the genre, if that makes sense. Yeah, so concept light, we'll say.
Okay. So, and what was the biggest challenge with this album production-wise?
Time. Definitely. Production-wise, it was difficult because I think you're always trying to evolve and stay fresh while still being yourself, and but also not going too crazy and too in one other direction. But it ended up being time for us. We had the tour coming. We had 2 tours, and I was like, all right, I mean, the album has to be done. So it ended up being crunch time at the end to get everything together. Mark and our sound engineer, John, were working for a week straight, staying up, till 5 a.m. and waking up super, super early and just mixing and mastering the album. And then I was on the East Coast in Boston, and I was like, okay, like I would listen and I'd be like, all right, I want to change the snare. I want to change, I want to take one thing out. So I'd have to bounce out a new stem and send it to them. And then they would be 3 hours behind. So I'd have to wait in the morning till they woke up. And then I would have to stay up extra late at night while they were working to make sure that I could send the stems, 5 or 6, 7. I think I was staying up till like 6 a.m. sometimes, waiting for them to send me edits to send back. That was the hardest thing about Never's Road, was just trying to get everything together and sounding the way that we wanted it to sound by the time we needed it submitted to have it be released on time. So it was a pretty crazy few months towards the end there. But I mean, it ended up working out, and we got everything done that we needed to get done, and that was the most difficult part of that album. So hopefully in the future we're learning and we'll avoid that. Luckily, we don't have any tours to bump up to,
so you're at home. So yeah, sure. I mean, actually, speaking of time, so you also were producing during the tours. I mean, Iconoplandes or Sonnever's Road, like you had your computer with and just putting some idea, or
yeah, we have general ideas, but I wouldn't say that we wrote a lot within our tours. It's just the amount of stuff that I do on the tours is exhausting because I wake up, I set everything up and bring everything in, help help merch, help everyone do sound check. Then I have a few hours to eat. Then it's showtime, and then you have to take everything down and apart, and then load it back up, and that's a full day of from the morning when you wake up to the night when you go to bed. So there's not a super lot of time to create within that. The free time that you do get, I think, is better spent decompressing. Yeah, but we, that being said, we do have moments of off days and stuff where we'll sit down and be like, oh, like maybe we can turn this into something in the future, and we'll get some ideas that will be later executed down the road once we're not on the road anymore.
Okay, sure. Just because I saw that you sometimes found the piano or something, you record some stuff, so that's why. So if you have time, probably like.
Yeah. Not saying it doesn't happen, but when we're on tour, I think the main focus is the performance in the tour, and working on what we've learned from the past shows and executing it in the future shows, and just making sure that we're putting on 100% every night. So long days go into that, but that's not saying that the creative process isn't always in the works either.
Yeah. Actually, 1.5 years ago you were at Banbury Music Festival. So what is the difference between playing in a club versus playing at the big festival stage? It was your first, actually, or the Lollapalooza?
Yeah, Bunbury was our first.
Okay.
And then later that year we played Lollapalooza, and both of those were very interesting in their very own ways. Bunbury was our first festival, so that was just a cool experience in itself. And then we had a whole bunch of audio issues at Lollapalooza, unfortunately. But it ended up working out, and it taught us a lot as far as the difference between playing a small indoor venue and a club to a festival. I think there's a few different differences, I guess. The people, usually when you're playing a club show or it's probably going to be on your tour, and there's going to be people that came to see you. That everyone there is a fan of the music, where you can't say the same at a festival. At a festival, it's kind of like an opening act where you might have fans in the crowd, but the majority of the crowd probably doesn't know who you are. So you have to play and make your set in a way that not caters to that, but you definitely keep it in mind when it comes. It's more of like a set list planning and what songs you're going to play, and what you can throw in a deep cut in your headlining show inside, but you're going to want to play your bangers and your best songs on a festival stage. So I think that's definitely, bring the same amount of energy and you play the crowd the same way, but the set list and the way that things are run are definitely much different in both of those.
Yeah, and how it was for you. I mean, personally, how do you feel, like the feeling on the stage and the festival, the seeing the people? I mean, yeah, it's different, but
it reminded me of, like I said, doing openings and opening for other bigger artists, because you're not playing. Oh, I shouldn't say you're not, but you're trying to be memorable, and So after the show, after your set is done, people will go to their phones and go to Spotify and be like, all right, I need to go and follow whoever these people are. And I think that's what also creates lifelong fans, and it's extremely important, especially playing either the opening shows or a festival. So you want to lay it all out there, and I always, enjoy the big crowds. Obviously, everyone does, but yeah, it's you want to kind of just put it all out there and hope that people enjoy the performance.
Sure. I really like, as a listener or, as a person that are going to a festival, this you can really find some really good music there, and good like instrumentalists or producers or rappers or singers, bands, and after that you starting to listen their music, which is like great. And I absolutely agree with you. So for me, it's something that you also can find a good music. Actually, you are independent artist and producer, right? What was the main reason you decided to be independent?
I think Mark and we've always kind of had that mentality. Like, if we can do it ourselves, let's do it ourselves, kind of. And I remember we flew out to LA early in our career, and we kind of had the conversation of, hey, we have a deal that we could easily take, but is it the best decision for us? While it could have been great, and it could have gone super smoothly, and we could be in a much different area now musically. We just figured that we wanted to create the music that we wanted to create and not have to compromise the sound or compromise ourselves or compromise for anyone else except for what we wanted to do. So that was the big reasoning behind staying independent and continuing to be independent. I'm not saying that it could very well happen in the future, but back at that time when we were posed with these options of going the label route, we decided that it wasn't worth it at that time, because you don't have the leverage at that point to be like, this is what we want. We don't want to, we want to create the music that we want to create. We don't want to compromise stuff or have stuff written in contracts that doesn't benefit us. And now I think if options are presented to us in that area, we'll have a lot more to barter with, and a lot more like, hey, see, we did this all the way up till now, so what can you give us, as opposed to what can we give them, which is I think is very important. So, and if no record deal ever comes, we are more than happy to continue doing what we're doing.
I think also, like, the label is putting a lot of pressure on the artists. So as we were talking about the time and stuff, maybe in some ways easier, but I don't know how it works actually, but I just think that it's a lot of pressure on the musicians, which you have to release and stuff. So you have like free hands now, so you can do one album like for 2 years, which is not like, but still it's in your hands. So
yeah, we're our own bosses.
Yeah.
If we have an idea, or we have a concern, or we any number of things, we'll hop on the phone and we'll talk about it, and whatever we think, that's the way that we go, as opposed to having to ask permission or not being able to do what you want to do. It's the difference between owning a company and working for someone that owns a company. I'd much rather the latter or the former. I'd rather be my own boss.
Yeah. Definitely. You said that you're producing in Ableton, right? Mm-hmm. And what are your favorite tool or plugin you're using in your music production process?
I use Omnisphere a lot. I use a lot of Output. There's a VST instrument company called Output that creates some incredible plugins for producers. I use them very heavily. but yeah, and sometimes I'll just go to the old Contact piano patches and just go from there. But right now, I'm definitely on the Omnisphere and Output Wave. Omnisphere is just so deep. You can find they have just so many sounds. Some of them are really natural and like a natural sounding recorded bell sample, or some you can get like a really fat bass or synth or whatever. So it's kind of like a one-stop shop, I guess. So whatever gets the idea down the fastest, and then you can kind of change it from there afterwards if you want. But whatever gets that general idea down the fastest, that's what I usually prefer to rock with.
Nice. Yeah, actually, I tried Arcade. I think
Mm-hmm.
it's from Output. I don't have Omnisphere, but I'm using Serum and also Massive. So yeah.
I used to use Massive, the OG Massive, not the new Massive X that they have out now. But I used that pretty extensively through our early albums, through Dreaming and I Cannot Plan This. I used Massive a considerable amount.
Yeah, nice. Actually, you said that sometimes the idea is coming like from Mark, but my question is that what comes first, melody or beat, mostly?
Depends. I try to switch it up, honestly, every time. Not every time, but normally I'll start with chords and I'll work off of the chords. I normally don't write bass or drums first. It's just kind of confusing to me when I do that, unless we have a hook already. So if we have a hook already, I can kind of already have a template, I guess. But even then, I'll usually just start with chords. I think it makes it a little bit easier to understand where the direction is heading in my head, having an atmosphere to build off of. So I like to go with chords first.
Nice. Yeah, actually, that's like much more emotional. I think you can find the emotion there. So yeah, sure. Have you picked up any habits during tours that you now follow every tour?
I'm sure there are many. Yeah, I'll like I said before, I like when I go to cities, I like traveling and hitting as many food spots as I can. So, and I'm also known to disappear to have time for myself and get food because you're spending 24/7 with everyone that you're touring with. So it's always nice for me to, after sound check is done, I'll say, all right guys, I'll see you in a little bit. And I go and find food, like try to find some local place that's within walking distance and just kind of sit and chill and have a moment to yourself before going back and be surrounded by not only the people that you're traveling with, which is fantastic the majority of the time, but also a whole bunch of other people that are there to see you. So it's nice to kind of escape and have a little bit of time to yourself, at least a few times a week.
Yeah, I think it's important to have time for yourself
Yeah.
in general, like not only on the tour. So on the tour especially,
Yeah.
yeah. But you are in the one cabin like for 1 month.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Yep.
So yeah,
Especially on these last tours, we're in a full bus, so you're traveling with 10, 12 people 24/7. So it's that and taking care of your voice. Yeah, I would say also I have tea a lot pre-show, so that'd be my actual legitimate pre-show ritual is tea.
yeah. Okay, you have some special flavor.
Yeah, it's called throat coat, which is a funny name, but it's just like an herbal caffeine-free tea, and it's supposed to help your throat. So Mark and I drink that with usually a bunch of ginger in it. Like get ginger, throw it in there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. Actually, do you have some crazy funny memories from tours? It doesn't matter if it's US or Europe.
Yeah, I feel like there's countless from the most recent one. I always, it was like the middle of the tour, and we had a few off days coming up, so everyone was kind of in good spirits. Not to say that people weren't in good spirits. Even throughout the tour, everyone was really great. Even all the problems that we had on the last US tour with traveling, and it was just a nightmare. Everyone was just so positive and helped each other get through the day, which I'm super, super grateful for. But one of the the great memories is, we have a few days off and everyone's kind of having a good time on the bus, and our photographer loves like Nickelback and Creed and like the butt rock scene. And so we were just like screaming these songs, and we picked them up over our head in the moving bus, and we like crowd surfed them inside the bus, and then we accidentally dropped him. So, but yeah, it was the last tour. I had a lot of really, really good memories. It was just, while it was difficult at times, like I said, the crew and everyone was there, was always there to kind of pick each other up, which is a good overarching, overall memory itself. Those guys are incredible and our friends, and it was just a great experience overall.
It's a lot of like memories. I bet that it's a lot. Like, I mean, so you can't remember like everything, but yeah, this is nice.
Yeah, because it's every day for a month and a half, or almost, or however long. So there's bound to be hard days, and there's bound to be hard days, and there's bound to be days that are easy and fun and super, super memorable. But I think there's definitely those standout moments, even within every day being super eventful. I guess every day has a memory, but there's definitely some standouts for sure.
Yeah, actually, have you been thinking about some solo projects or albums?
I occasionally think about it, and I hope to one day do it. But right now, my focus is on our projects, Witt Lowry projects. And I'm having such a great time, especially this, working now and where I am. I'm able to kind of wake up and just go downstairs and work. Whereas in the past, I haven't been able to do that, either being in the military and having to fly and travel and do that, or living with other people and, having roommates. And especially when I was living in Boston, once the pandemic started, while I used to be home alone for the most of the day and be able to turn up the speakers and stuff, now all of a sudden, while everyone else was like, oh, working from home is great, it kind of screwed me a little bit, because while I was formerly working alone at home, now I have roommates that are working in the day. So I think that initially the productivity was okay, as the time went on, I realized like, oh, this kind of is a drag. But I guess we were talking about me doing solo stuff. But anyway, yeah, I went on a tangent. But yeah, right now I'm definitely a little more focused on Witt Lowry projects. But maybe far down the line, sure, get into film or get into some solo stuff. But we'll see.
Yeah. And speaking of the pandemic and stuff, what you were doing for your mental health, or like what's your like habit, or
so initially for the start, I was just trying to do stuff in the day. Like, I would usually work at night, and I would just work on headphones, and so in the day I would try to get outside and do stuff. While in Boston, it was hard because everything that was awesome, not everything, but a lot of the fun things that I did were with other people, sporting events or concerts, going out to bars and going to clubs and stuff like that stopped, and seeing other people stopped, seeing friends stopped. So I kind of just had to find a puzzle or do things in the day that would kind of keep you sane. And eventually, you could only work so much doing the same thing before you get burnt out. By summer, I was like, well, I know I'm moving to Colorado in a few months, so I kind of backed away from music for a while, and I just couldn't work anymore. And I went up to my buddy's house in Vermont, which is where a lot of like the later tracks that came, or I guess the later of the tracks that we released last year were created. It was kind of a different space, and it was a little bit easier to work without having like 10 people in your apartment building. So yeah, like a lot of the singles that we released last year ended up being written in Vermont at my buddy's place.
Nice. Yeah. Actually, can we look forward to some new music in the near future?
I would say yes. The amount of time in the future, I honestly don't know, but we have some cool plans for some stuff in 2021. So I would definitely be on the lookout, but I can't give anything specific.
I know, it's okay. we are just kind of curious. I am curious, but yeah, I know. I mean, I will enjoy it for sure. So
I'm very excited. So
me too. And you're working also on some album stuff, or it's going to be like singles?
Well, yeah. I mean, we're working on I guess we could say that we're starting to work on a project, but singles will always come first anyway. So while we may be working on an album, that is I think a farther thing in the future than singles that may or may not be on the album. So yeah, there'll be singles and hopefully some videos and then shortly after an album, but we'll see when all that kind of rolls around.
Okay, we are excited. I think that everybody is excited, so yeah,
yes,
great.
Yes.
I enjoy for it. Actually, what's your favorite song from your production?
I know it sounds like a cop out, but I feel like I don't necessarily have a favorite. I feel like the favorite is always the last thing that you created, but at the same time, every song also has an emotion, a personal emotion attached to it, and a story yourself, I guess. There's the story that Mark has written on it, but there's also a story behind that as well in writing for yourself. So, and they're all different, and each one you can kind of look at and be like, oh yeah, like I remember that was written during this time, or I remember using, a cool new way of, like a new instrument or something either technical about it that is like, oh, like I was so happy that I found a way to create that sound, or something emotional attached where it was like I remember where I was or what I was going through writing it. So they're all individual. Yeah, I think they all have their own light to each song.
Okay. If you could work with any artist of any genre, who would that be? You said Hans Zimmer, right?
Hans Zimmer would be one for sure. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of like electronic artists that I think would be awesome to work with. The Glitch Mob or Millennium, or any of those guys, or in the hip hop scene, Gambino or J. Cole, or someone that I have always enjoyed and looked up to in the hip hop scene, I guess. So there's definitely a lot. Even rock. My favorite band of all time has always been Incubus. The lead singer Brandon Boyd would always be an incredible thing. I think his birthday was the other day. So, but it would be like, there's just so many incredibly talented people. It's hard to choose one or two to work with. Sorry, Kemba's barking at my neighbor.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I mean, you can choose whoever you want. I mean, it's not like one or two. I know it's
I think it would probably be Hans Zimmer, just to kind of experience that, and just love to pick his brain and learn from him. Maybe not necessarily working with, but even just to be in the same room and be able to speak and talk to him and learn. And I think that's a huge thing. Maybe not necessarily like have Hans Zimmer on a track, but learn from him as a musician, and learn from as an artist and a person. I think would be the greater takeaway for sure.
Yeah. Sometimes it's much more important to learn from someone. I mean, just sitting next to him, or and just see what's going on there.
Right. Kemba, shh. Hey.
Oh, she's so sweet.
Thank you. Oh, okay. Sorry about that.
No, it's okay. I mean, she's part of your
boofing away.
Oh, she's so sweet. I like her. Okay, we can continue. Actually, what is the biggest struggle you guys have related to being an independent artist? We were talking about, but
yeah, it definitely. While it's nice being an independent artist, it also comes with its own challenges, and we've been lucky enough to create a good network of people around us, and Mark finding the people that he needs to get certain things done that normally a label would take care of. But I mean, even since we started, and I think probably from I Cannot Plan This on was when the streaming scene started becoming stronger and stronger. Prior to that, it was, for Dreaming, it was people buying still, people going on iTunes or Amazon and purchasing the album. And then from I Cannot Plan This on, streaming started really taking hold. And at the start of streaming, labels did not have the grip that they do now. We could contact someone or email someone at Spotify and be like, hey, we have a new single and we think it would be good on this playlist, XYZ. There was a chance that they would be able to put that song on a playlist. Now, good luck. It's because it's probably not going to happen. And not to mention that the playlists are now much more. There's a lot more music on these playlists as opposed to, back then there was 30 songs on a playlist. Now there's 150 songs on a playlist. So while it's like cool, like got on a playlist, and it'll boost your streaming, especially if it's a bigger one. It's a lot harder not only to get on them, but it's also a little bit cheaper, I guess, of a win. So there's ways to kind of go about getting on playlists without being signed to a label. Getting distribution for an album is huge, which I think we're going to be looking into for our next projects. But that's definitely the big hard thing about at least the music side. And there's also, Mark pays for tours himself. There's no label that's going to front money for a tour. No one's going to front money for merch. That comes out of Mark's pocket. So that's also the big thing. Everything is paid for and created by us, and paid for by Mark. So when it comes to that, that's another huge thing. So with being your own boss comes also, doing everything yourself. So blessing and a curse.
I agree, but I think, from my opinion, but I think people and fans also really appreciate it more when the artist is doing that stuff by his own, or it's like, it's kind of, because it's a lot, as you said. So for me, it's like, wow, you can manage it, not alone. Like, I know it's like a bunch of people there, it's a team Witt, I know that, but still you can manage it, which is it's great.
Yeah, and it goes to also the support of management, and there's a lot of people that have behind the scenes had a very big impact and helped a lot with in all sorts of aspects, from the music creation process to touring and everything in between. There's a lot of other people that help and are key in that. So while it's Mark at the forefront, there's a lot of people that help support, and because we wouldn't be able to do it by ourselves. While it'd be incredibly impressive, yeah, it just shows how well and how important, that just everyone is to every component in their own area. So
Yeah.
I mean, we really appreciate that.
What do you consider your greatest success yet?
I don't know. I think it's always kind of similar to your favorite thing. It's always the last thing, right? So Never's road and the touring and just being able to look at where we are as people and artists. I don't think 20-year-old me would be like, oh yeah, in 9 years this is where you're going to be. I never planned on being a musician. I didn't envision this for myself, but I'm incredibly grateful and happy that I am where I am. And I know Mark feels the same way, and it's humbling, and also it feels kind of like an accomplishment to be where we are. So I'd say that is the success, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. You can't say in the future what it's gonna be, but for sure. Yeah, I mean, my another question is about the future. But yeah. Like, where do you see yourself in the future in regards of your producer career?
I don't know. I think I'm open to a lot, and whatever direction I take or we end up taking will be exciting and refreshing in its own way, I'm sure. But I try to kind of just take it as day by day and have a vision for the future and try to execute on that, and then kind of just take it from there. I think every project has its own little set of time. So, if we're working on a project right now, that's the focus until it's done. And then whatever comes after it, who knows? But as for right now, it's just about creating the best music that we can. And until it's all done, that's it.
That's a question, yeah, but I think, yeah, the best way is to be right now here and feel the moment and work on what you want to work on, or spend time with your close people. So, and enjoy it. Seeing in the future, it doesn't matter what it is. It's kind of, I mean, it's okay, but it's kind of not productive, maybe you can say. Work on it now. So actually, if you could change something in the music industry, what it could be?
That's a big question, I guess, because there's obviously so many things that could be changed for the better. But I think in the same way, though, as a kind of overall thing that I would like to change is create a new genre and create something completely new and different. While there's a lot of things I'm sure that we could change about the music industry, as far as any giant business and corporation and behemoth of power, I think personally I would love to, change music itself and create a genre and create something new and fresh that people have never heard before, and hopefully people can be inspired from. And I think that would be a personal thing that I would love to change about the music industry.
Okay, that's a very nice answer. I've never thought about changing something like this. I mean, to create a new genre, it's kind of cool. So, what would be your advice to young emerging producers, artists?
Stick with it. It's one of the things I think is appreciate your little wins and appreciate learning and even the mistakes and the times where it's like, oh man, like I'm not getting anything done, or I hate what I'm writing, or X, Y, and Z. I think after every single song, not every single song, but I know I've gone through big patches of I'm never going to create another song again. Like I'm done. My brain has been maxed out of creative juices, and everything I write I hate. And eventually something pops and something comes out of all of that, and your next greatest thing is ahead of you, and just always be learning and always be adapting and, striving to be better and sticking with it, even through the difficult times and the times where you think it's like, well, this isn't worth it. It very well could be,
That's really good advice. So thank you. I will follow it also. Yeah. Actually, do you have some strange addiction?
We have an ice cream company here called Ben and Jerry's, and I will eat an entire thing of Ben and Jerry's multiple times a week. I've stopped as of late. For a while, especially earlier in the pandemic, I was eating a considerable amount of ice cream just straight up in one night. So I would say I was a little bit addicted to ice cream for a while. And it's definitely wasn't healthy.
Which flavor?
So there's like a double chocolate one. Tonight dough is always good. Then there's like there's one with peanut butter in it. I forgot the name. And it's not like the obvious peanut butter like flavor one, but it has like peanut butter and stuff in it and chocolate. Oh, it's so good. It's like I could like go into my freezer. I don't have any, but I could go into my freezer and just like pig out on it right now. I love it.
Oh yeah. Nice. I mean, that's really good. I mean, ice cream is always good choice, I think.
Yeah, just not too much
sweet thing.
Gonna turn into a big ball of ice cream.
I mean, I also have some strange addiction with the sweets, which is like I'm always saying to myself, no, you are not going to eat it. No, like no way. And after that, you are going like kind of hungry to a store, and you're like, oh my gosh, you see that thing, and you're like, I'm going to buy it probably. Yeah.
I mean, I have no self-control when it comes to that kind of stuff because I'll eat the quart down to this this much, and then I'll look at it and be like, well, I'm not going to save this much, so I might as well just finish it now. And then I hate myself. I'm like, I finished the whole thing. Great. I feel like crap.
Yeah. But I mean, I'm also like that. I like the chocolate bananas, if you have it. I don't know. We have like especially the Slovak product, which is like this big, and you have like in one slice. So I'm like, I can eat like 10. It's no problem for me. It's so good. Like huge chocolate on the top, Well,
at least you're getting banana.
Yeah.
in your diet because it's pretty good for you. It's better than chocolate and just straight up bad things. Getting some fruit in there.
Yeah. I don't know why, but this is like a kind of strange addiction for me. So, but it's not really healthy, but yeah. So.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah, that's what life is.
What life
Great.
is.
So, what is your big goal in your life?
Well, it's definitely important to have goals and strive for something greater. But I think that my goals are always kind of changing. And like I said, especially with right now, my goal is to create the best music that I can for this next project. And, but there's always the kind of like thought in the back of the head of, oh man, it would be great to win a Grammy or to write a score for a film. But so I think there's kind of two different goals. An overarching kind of big grandiose goal of getting accolades and doing huge things, but I think more achievable and more direct in your face and in the moment is just creating the best music that I can right now and doing something different and just trying to create something that's timeless, I guess, what I could hope for. We'll see if that's actually executed in the future, but because I can't decide that. So I guess we'll see.
Yeah. Nice. Actually, we are at the end. So my last question is, what do you manifest in your life?
Like what do I try to think of and become, manifest.
Yeah, like your thoughts to reality, or yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I think just enjoying the moment, and I think over the years I've had some amazing times in my life where it's like you don't know the good days until it's gone. So I just try to enjoy what I'm doing and be happy, because as kind of weird and sad as it is to say, it is hard to be happy. So I'm just trying to be a bright light for people and be, a good person to yourself, I guess, and just try to manifest your own happiness, just well-being. It seems like a weird answer, but I think it's also a very difficult thing to achieve. So it requires a little bit extra thought every day.
I mean, you can manifest whatever you want, and I think this is a really good choice. I mean, it's the most important thing you can manifest in your life, and follow it. So, yeah, sure. I agree. Okay, so thank you so much, Dan, for your time. And
yeah, thank you, Emma. Appreciate it.
We are very happy to could have you here with us in our podcast, and it was a great opportunity for us to talk with you. Actually, such a special host from overseas. So, and we wish you best of the luck in upcoming year, and in your music career as well as in your personal life. So stay safe and healthy.
Thank you.
So
you as well.
Wish you the best.
Yes. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much for your time. So this was TERMOSTAT Q podcast with Emita and our first guest, Dan Haynes. Thanks for listening, and at the end we will play a song from Dan's production. See you in the next part. Bye.
Yeah, I think about it quite often. I wonder if you can hear me. Sometimes I pick up on signs that you send to show that you're near me. Sometimes I think about life after death and question the theories. I miss your smile and your voice, I still remember it clearly. I wrote a song called Last Letter, I put the volume on max. I wonder if you look down on my life and get a good laugh, and then tell grandma and the others that you're proud you're my dad. I wish I cherished every single fucking moment we had. Now it's too late, so many things I wish I said, just never had time to say. How can you feel so close from a million miles away? It's crazy what can change in a year, a month, or a day. I know I'm flawed and so perfect is something I never claimed. They say the strongest storms show the strongest roots. I always knew that one lie could change 100 truths. I always cherished when you told me I believe in you. I hope that you can forgive me for how I treated you. Thinking back, I blamed you for all of my fucking demons. You drank another bottle, could never fathom the reasons. It took too long to get you the help that you really needed. One day when I win a Grammy, I'll hold it up so you see it, I promise. I know you know I'm a man of my word. Lately feeling less and less adapted to handling hurt. Acting like they know my fucking life, cause they're fans of my work. Others are nice to get what they want, cause they're fans of my worth. Can't tell the real from the fake, can't tell the fake from the real. Broken and empty inside, told me in time I will heal. OCD wrecking my brain, I don't want nothing the same. Trap the whole album at once, write it all over again. Write it all over again, write it all over again. Feel like I'm going insane, wanna feel good for a change. I keep ignoring the pain, there is nobody to blame. Tell me they love me for me, then they throw dirt on my name. Damn. The darkest nights make the brightest stars. I tell myself that every time I feel like life gets hard. We've come a long fucking way since our kindness regards, and still I feel like my whole life is just waiting to start. I could've lost it all in that crash. The lights flash, it's feeling like something's jabbed in my back. The car spinning, my whole body's cut and covered in glass. And when we stop, I see my stomach slowly turning to black. That made me realize my whole life is truly fragile at best. Sometimes I stress until I physically chronically feel pain in my chest. I ruminate, it's like my mind is always stuck on reset. I heard my grandma's fighting cancer, mom just sent me a text. I know we always butted heads and never saw eye to eye, but at this rate, I've seen too many in my family die. Apologize for holding grudges, such a waste of our time. So I just wanna say I love you while you're here and alive. Some people don't know the difference of being human and human being. I'm only letting things inside my life now that give it meaning. I'm only letting things inside my mind now that keep me dreaming. I'm only letting things inside my heart now that keep it beating. That's real. Yeah. They told me jump on this beat and let it all spill. I wonder if I lost it all, if they were called still. Some people tend to forget, but I know we all feel. I put my soul on display and that's what they call real. Stop holding on, if it's holding you back, then let it go. Your grass will always be the greenest if you let it grow. They said I'll never be anything, yes you never know. No matter how far we go, we started at Never's Road. Never's Road.